How was the world we exist in born? How were we born? Creation epics are a civilization's earliest expression regarding self-awareness. What was the creation myth of the Chinese people at that time? Was it Pangu separating heaven and earth? Probably not. At present, it seems the Pangu myth appeared very late, roughly taking shape in the Han Dynasty, and explicit literary records actually date to the Sanwu Li Ji and Wu Yun Li Nianji by Su Zheng of the Wu Kingdom during the Three Kingdoms period. Before this myth did not seem to have taken shape. So how did people at that time understand the birth of heaven and earth? The ancient silk manuscript Dao Yuan, unearthed at Mawangdui, states that in the beginning of the eternal void, there was no form. If we call birth existence, Yu, then there is a nothingness, Wu, where even existence does not exist. And furthermore, a not yet nothingness, where even nothingness has not appeared. We trace back to a time when even the concept of not yet nothingness hadn't appeared. Everything started from here. Here, there was no heaven and earth, no four seasons, not even the concept of nothingness. Then, perhaps due to the needs of everyone in front of the screen, it was agitated. Surging and moving, it was called the Great Manifestation. There was something formless yet complete, born before heaven and earth. Laozi arrived and said he did not know its name, but called it the Way, existing in the vast emptiness, and within this vast emptiness, the concept of dimension was also born. The universe generated primordial energy yuan-qi with boundaries and forms, in which the clear and light energy dispersed to become heaven, and the turbid energy condensed to become earth. Thus heaven and earth were born. Afterward, energies of different properties between heaven and earth interacted, nurturing the non-personified twin gods of yin and yang. The twin gods of yin and yang intertwined and mixed. Their concentrated essence produced the four seasons, and the dispersed vital energy of the four seasons generated all things. When the hot yang energy accumulated for a long time, it produced fire. The essential part of the fire energy became the sun. When the cold yin energy accumulated for a long time, it produced water, and the essential part of the water energy became the moon. The dispersed vital energy of the sun and moon produced the stars, and this world was born. The Chinese often use heaven and earth to refer to the entire world. So what did the world look like at this time? Zhu Yan came along and said that what is currently called China is only one part of the world, occupying one part of it. This is the Great Nine Continents. And under the influence of the Great Nine Continents theory, we see that in the mythological world of that time, the 9 provinces mapped out by Yu the Great were merely a piece of land in the southeast corner of the Sea of the 9 Continents called Chixian Shenzhou. The other 8 were Sizhou, Rongzhou, Yanzhou, Qizhou, Taizhou, Zhuzhou, Bozhou, and Yangzhou. But this is not all. Beyond the 9 continents, there are 8 camps acting as 8 marshes, which are Daz, Dazhu, Zhu, Dameng, Zuzi, Juk, Daxia, and Daming. But this is still not all. Beyond the 8 marshes, there are 8 depths Hong representing landmasses, which are Hekyu, Jilin, Dakyong, Guangrao, Jinqiu, Yimu, and Bing. But this is still not all. Beyond the 8 depths, there are 8 extremes, which are 8 great mountains at the edge of heaven and earth, namely Fengtu Mountain, the East Pole Mountain, Bo Mountain, the South Pole Mountain, Biangju Mountain, the West Pole Mountain, Zhou Mountain, and the North Pole Mountain. Beyond this, there might be an even larger world, and within the 4 seas, it is 28,000 Li from east to west and 26,000 Li from north to south. We always say round heaven and square earth, but the world at this time actually existed somewhere between the canopy theory and the sphere heaven theory. Here, the sky is divided into 9 fields, subdivided into 9,999 corners, situated Wuyi Lai away from the earth, containing the 3 enclosures and 28 mansions. The 5 planets of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth travel across the high heavens. The year star Jupiter completes a cycle every 12 years. The Suba Kaling star, Mars, comes out to patrol the constellations, monitoring nations without the way and plunging them into disaster. The quelling star, Saturn guards a star every year so that the corresponding nation will not lose its land. The appearance and disappearance of the Great White Venus controls the world's warfare. The movement of the morning star Mercury can prevent the disruption of the 4 seasons. Kunlun Mountain stands between heaven and earth. If one climbs up along, Kunlun Mountain and reaches Liangfeng Mountain, one can achieve immortality. Climbing further to Xuan Mountain, one gains divine powers to call the wind and summon the rain. People say that if you climb even further up, you can ascend to the sky and become a heavenly god. Yes, this world is a mixture of humans and gods. The boundary between humans and gods was not that distinct. In ancient times, heroes among humanity had already created countless myths. Nuwa mending the heavens, Yi shooting the 10 suns, Yu the Great controlling the floods, and Quafu chasing the sun. The original ancestors, the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, and various sage kings had long since become gods, receiving the sacrifices of descendants. Not only that, ancestors who died in later generations also enjoyed incense in ancestral temples to bless their descendants. In this world, the highest among the heavenly gods is the heavenly emperor Tiandi. As the highest god between heaven and earth, Tai Wei is his park, court, and the purple forbidden enclosure is his residence. The Son of Heaven must beat drums for the Lord on high in the first month of spring, hold the great sacrifice for rain in the middle of summer, offer sacrifices to the heavenly emperor in the autumn, and respectfully store the harvested grains in the divine granary. And the gods of the world are also responsible for various matters. In the 3rd month of spring, the god of thunder begins his work. In the 3rd month of autumn, the goddess of frost begins to send frost, until the late 2nd month of spring the next year, when women come out to step under the moon and sing, allowing birds, beasts, grasses, and trees to develop and grow. There are also the 8 directional wind gods, evolved from the ancient 4 directional wind gods. Zhujiasheti is in charge of the northeast, Tongxi the east, Shifenruo the southeast, Gonggong the south, Zhubi the southwest, Gao the west, Yuqiang the northwest, and Chongqi the north. The winds from the 8 directions take the winter solstice as their term, with a sishiwu, day interval, blowing from different gates of the 8 mountains to regulate the cold. The clouds from the mountains of the 8 extremes produce rain to nourish the world, while the clouds from the 8 depths, 8 marshes, and 8 oceans nourish the 9 provinces. The people here comply with the laws of nature, farm and live, and sacrifice to the myriad gods. The state has the state altar, the village has the village altar, and the family has family gods. At the end of every year, people hold a grand last sacrifice to unify all things and all gods. As the grandest sacrifice of the year, the common people fully enjoy a nationwide carnival after a year of hard work. So how do they distinguish the seasons? The dial is in the sky, the Big Dipper rotates, and its handle divides the 24 solar terms. Aside from gods, this world is also filled with divine beasts. Heaven, earth, and all things are integrated into the 5 Chong. The 5 Chong are not insects, but a classification of all things based on the 5 elements. People divided animals, including themselves, and animals from myths and legends into 5 basic categories. Actually, the speaker made a mistake here. These characters should be read as Luo, naked, Ling, scaled, Mao, hairy, Yu, feathered, and Kun, armored. This classification is actually very easy to understand. First, forget the biological knowledge we've learned and just observe all things from their appearance. Luo refers to naked, hairless, Ling refers to scales, Mao refers to hair, fur, Yu refers to feathers, and Kun refers to shells. So in this world, humans, earthworms, and frogs belong to the same category, while turtles, crabs, and insects belong to another. Luo refers to naked creatures, hairless and shellless, with humans as their leader. Ling refers to fish and reptiles with scales, with the dragon as their leader. Mao consists mostly of beasts, with the Qilin as their leader. Yu refers to flying birds, with the phoenix as their leader. Kun refers to animals with shells, with the spirit turtle as their leader. All things influence each other because they are of the same kind, and the root and branches respond to each other. Therefore, when a tiger roars, the wind rises. When a dragon extends itself, clouds appear. When Qilin fight, solar and lunar eclipses occur. When a whale dies, a comet appears. When the Qiqi and the Qingjiao appear in the land of Jizhou, the sky is clear, the earth is peaceful, and venomous insects and fierce beasts do no evil. When the phoenix flies in an enlightened and virtuous nation, thunder restrains itself, fierce winds do not rise, and rivers and seas do not overflow. Thus, the gods of heaven and earth and all creatures formed a bizarre mythological world. In this world, the interconnectedness of all things is truly the interconnectedness of all things. The movement of the 5 planets can affect the growth of all things and the rise and fall of nations. The anger of the ruler will cause mountains and rivers to shift, and the heavens to send down omens. In this world, if one preserves one's true nature and does not compromise one's body, then in times of extreme danger, one's spirit can reach heaven. Therefore, when King Wu of Zhou crossed the river, he could calm the waters of the Yellow River. When the Duke of Luoyang waved his spear and shouted loudly, he made the sun retreat 3 lunar mansions. In this world, the heavenly way is impartial. IT does not deliberately favor anyone, nor does it deliberately alienate anyone, but there is a resonance between heaven and humanity, and intense emotions can ultimately reach the highest heavens. In the state of Qi, a widow crying out her grievances to the heavens could trigger thunder and lightning. The angry thunder could strike Jingong deep within his palace. Oaths between nations and between people can be witnessed by mountains and rivers, and the mountains and rivers will truly respond. This is a very interesting world, and a world very much worth exploring. It is more complete than the world in the classic of mountains and seas, and purer than the worlds in later mythological novels. Alright, the above is a discussion on the question of how we came to be. Now let's look at the second question. How did humans create gods? How many gods are there in China? This is truly a complex question. In China, if you were to build a pantheon, that building would probably be immeasurable. In ancient times, the bright gods were not mixed together. Thus, there were officials for heavenly gods, earthly spirits, and the myriad things, each managing their own affairs without chaos. Of course, in reality, this is absolutely not the case. For thousands of years since pre-Qin times, the Chinese world of immortals and gods has been a chaotic melting pot. It is probably only here with us that you would find out that gods also have to compete for posts, that gods also have to pass performance reviews, and that gods can also just slack off. The phrase, "the land of China does not support idol gods," is indeed not just a joke. The spiritual world possessed by the Chinese people shaped a unique psychological attitude towards belief, causing us to form a distinct divergence from other civilizations on the Eurasian continent, and on this basis, forming a brilliant culture of belief and colorful folk heritage. Therefore, every god in China has their own story. When we enter a temple, whether it is a Taoist temple, a Buddhist monastery, or a local folk shrine, IT is basically a coexistence of gods from multiple belief systems. For example, in Taoist temples, you can often see Bodhisattva Guanyin, while the god of wealth frequently appears in Buddhist monasteries. Outside some temples, there are also folk shrines for great immortals, animal spirits. This strange temple structure often gives people a complex and intricate feeling. This is because China's mythological and belief systems are indeed extremely complex, and due to historical reasons, they are truly intertwined. The Chinese deities we speak of today mostly refer to the pantheon of the 3 teachings Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, after the Tang and Song dynasties. The most typical example is a mythological text compiled during the Yuan and Ming periods, the complete collection of deities of the 3 religions, Sanjiao Yuanlu Sushen De Quan. As a classical work narrating the biographies of ancient folk religious figures and the deeds of immortals, written in the Yuan dynasty with Ming editions authored anonymously, it records various mythological legends of gods, immortals, and Buddhas from Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. However, this classification method is like putting everything uniformly into 3 baskets, which is undoubtedly somewhat blunt and crude. We mentioned in the previous lesson that ancient China did not have a cultural environment of absolute monotheism. Therefore, people of different eras would, according to their own needs, transport, borrow, or invent the deities they required to form a new pantheon. This situation of a multitude of gods competing for prominence has given China a massive and complex theological system. So, how to clarify and categorize them has always been a persistent problem in the fields of religious history and mythological history. For example, regarding our ancient mythological system, there are multiple mythological schools of thought, including cultural anthropology, history, literature, folklore, and archaeology. Participating figures include scholars like Lu Xun, Mao Dun, Liu Kuili, Yang Lihui, Yuan Ke, Xiaobing, Qian Mingzi, Huang Shi, and Shi Liuyi. Among them, each scholar might have their own methods, and each has their own arguments and strengths. In this episode, for the convenience of your understanding, we will broadly simplify them into three categories: official state, folk, and religious. The religious category primarily includes Taoism and Buddhism. The first type, the official category, is the state-worshipped pantheon led by Haoshen Shangdi, the supreme emperor of heaven, including heaven and earth, the sun and moon, mountains and rivers. Famous ones include the gods of the five sacred mountains like Mount Tai, Mount Song, Mount Hengehunan, Mount Hu, and Hengeshanxi. The gods of the four great rivers, the Yellow River, the Yangtze River, the Ji River, and the Huai River, as well as the god of agriculture Shennong, who manages civilian affairs. Many of these deities were born during the early dawn of ancient civilization, and because of the traditional official Chinese concept of respecting spirits and gods but keeping them at a distance, official deities often do not have specific human forms. They only set up a spirit tablet with text, which looks very abstract. But this perfectly aligns with the official government's expectation for religious belief using the divine way to establish education as a component of state ritual. Therefore, official gods are also the deity system most recognized by Confucian scholars, literati, and the bureaucratic class. So we see that inside the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest at the Temple of Heaven, there are no human-shaped statues worshipped, but rather spirit. Tablets are used as replacements. It should be noted that due to the class-based nature of our country in ancient times, official gods were generally monopolized by the state, and common people were not allowed to worship them. Of course, this is not absolute. This gave rise to three special situations. The first situation is deities that the public was strictly forbidden to worship, such as Haoshen Shangdi. As a result, the folk gradually evolved a corresponding substitute deity, which is the Jade Emperor Yuhuang Dadi, who is also one of the 6 sovereigns of Taoism. The second situation is deities that the government tacitly allowed the public to worship, such as Dongyue Dadi. We can see the prosperity of this belief from the widely distributed Dongyue temples among the people. This also made Dongyue Dadi a Taoist deity. Therefore, Dongyue Dadi, as an official god, not only has numerous human-shaped statues but also many new texts and corresponding religious rituals. Of course, this tacit approval was not continuous. For example, in the early years of the Ming Dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang revoked the public's right to sacrifice to Dongyue through ritual reforms and replaced human-shaped statues with text-based spirit tablets. However, this measure was not implemented very well at the local level. The third situation is deities delegated by the officialdom, such as the god of the soil, Hutu Shen. In past dynasties, it was basically an official god. But during the Yongle period of the Ming Dynasty, it was delegated to allow public worship. The addition of folk belief elements often brings vitality and new elements. For example, Fenyin Hutu Shrine, originally an official sacrificial site, later incorporated the 5 tiger generals to accompany the 5 sacred mountain gods, forming a civil-military integrated system recognized by the people. At the same time, the Hutu god also strengthened the function of granting children, becoming a popular deity among the people. The second type, the folk category, represented by folk grand deities like Erlang Shen, Bixia Yuanjun, and Tianfei Shengmu Mazu, were completely generated spontaneously by the people. They gradually developed from highly specialized local minor gods into omnipotent, top-tier deities. They have rich stories and folklore, and have bound a large number of literary works like operas and storytelling. These gods often also have connections with official gods and religious gods. For example, the folk belief in Bixia Yuanjun originating from Mount Tai. The Yuanjun in her title is actually a general Taoist term for female immortals. Moreover, the flourishing of Bixia Yuanjun was heavily related to the Quanzhen Taoist sect active in the Shandong region during the Yuan and Ming periods. During the Qing dynasty, she even became a target of official state sacrifice, being incorporated into the official ritual system. The third type, the religious category, is primarily composed of Buddhism and Taoism. For example, if we go to a Han Buddhist temple, the main hall will generally feature the Buddhas of the 3 spatial directions: Shakyamuni Buddha of the central Saha world, Medicine Buddha of the eastern Pure Lapis Lazuli world, and Amitabha Buddha of the western Pure Land of ultimate bliss. This is a manifestation of Pure Land belief in Buddhist Sibachal concepts, or the Buddhas of the 3 times: the past Buddha Dipankara, the present Buddha Shakyamuni, and the future Buddha Maitreya. This is a manifestation of the concept of reincarnation in Buddhist temporal views. There are also various bodhisattvas, led by the four great bodhisattvas, Guanyin of great compassion, Manjushri of supreme wisdom, Samantabhadra of great action, and Kshitigarbha, who made a great vow, the so-called great compassion, great wisdom, great action, and great vow. Then there are the various Dharma protectors and arhats. The protectors are generally the so-called Devas Zhutian, representing Deva belief, including the four heavenly kings, Mariki, Hariti, etc. Historically, there have been different versions like 12 Devas, 14 Devas, 16 Devas, and 24 Devas. Generally, Ashadevas is the standard. As for arhats, in Theravada Buddhism, it is the highest fruit of enlightenment achievable by a monk. We can see a large number of related statues in Wangchao Cave in Chaohu, Anhui, and Lingyin Temple in Hangzhou, Zhejiang. Then we go to Taoist palaces. The main hall generally houses the highest gods, the three pure ones Sanqing, Yuanshi Tianzong, Daode Tianzong, and Lingbao Tianzong. They are the highest deities after the Taoist theological system matured. By developing and merging concepts like the three heavens, three realms, three caverns, and three treasures, Taoism gradually formed the belief in the three pure ones and its iconography system. Following them are the sovereigns of the five directions, the six sovereigns, Mugong, Lord of the East, and Jinmu Golden Mother. Regarding the high-ranking deities below the Tao's three pure ones, there are currently theories of 4 sovereigns and 6 sovereigns within Taoism. The 6 sovereigns consisting of Yu Huang, Hutu, Shengzu, Shenghu, Tianhuang, and Beiji first appeared during the reign of Emperor Zhenzong of the Northern Song dynasty. Later, with multiple changes over time, during the Ming dynasty, 4 different systems of 6 sovereigns were widely circulated among various Taoist sects. Then there are the 3 great emperor officials Sangguandadi, the gods of the Thunder Department, the ghost emperors of Fengdu, Star Lords, Lingguan protectors, and celestial masters like Jie, Lu, etc. After that come others. For instance, the Kunlun Pantheon and the Penglai Pantheon were absorbed and disassembled by various other pantheons very early on, and did not survive as independent, complete systems. Similar systems and genealogies of gods can be found in abundance online, so we won't elaborate further here. However, we must note that no matter how comprehensive these immortal genealogies are, they cannot truly clarify the system of immortals and gods that actually existed in reality. They are often self-contained narratives, trying to encompass everything within their own existing system, but history proves that the organic whole shaped by its era cannot be stolen. In this episode, we will take one deity from each of the above systems for a case study. First is a deity, well known in China, imbued with an aura of heroism, yet whose image is completely different, even holding different basic information in the imperial court, Taoism, and folk culture. Erlang Shen. Speaking of Erlang Shen, of course, it is the handsome deity with a third eye of truth on his forehead, holding a 3-pointed double-edged spear, who unleashes his dog at the slightest disagreement, and who split a mountain to save his mother, the great-nephew god. However, if you went back to the Song dynasty and asked people about Erlang Shen, they would probably look confused and ask, who is Yang Jian? This brings us to the 3 premises we must explain in this episode. Yang Jian is Erlang Shen, but Erlang Shen is not necessarily Yang Jian. In fact, there are also Li Erlang, Zhao Erlang, Xue Erlang, Deng Erlang, etc., making his origins very complex. Regardless of how it is explained, although he may have been influenced by foreign religions, Erlang Shen is indeed a native deity, originating from Chinese soil. 3. As for who Erlang Shen actually is, this has been a 1,000-year-long large-scale debate involving the central government, local regions, folk beliefs, and religious groups.